Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Sean Kelly, voice of the Gators, for our introduction today. And today is Tuesday. That means we'll have Buddy Martin from the Buddy Martin Show, and then we'll have Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. Get his thoughts on Gators moving forward, last two games of the regular season, and get some recruiting update from him as well. If you missed it last night, I was asleep. But the Bills lose to the Broncos on a last-second field goal that apparently they missed the first one, but the Bills had 12 men on the field.
Wow, so who's coaching?
They get to re-kick it, and they make it. I meant to mention yesterday, congratulations, Camilo Villegas, former Gator golfer, wins on the PGA Tour. It's been a while. So congratulations to him. Let's go to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. And it's the one and the only Buddy Martin. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. I didn't stay up for that game. I can't go much past 11 o'clock anymore. I kind of conk out. But, I've kind of lost my interest, my mojo in NFL. I don't know why. I guess maybe when the local teams, meaning Jacksonville and Tampa particularly, aren't doing well. Jacksonville getting blown out 34-3.
Yeah, but they're 6-3, buddy. They lead
I know,
division.
I get it, but the interest level is just not there for me right now. I'm a college football guy, as you are, but you played in the league, so you have reason to follow it. Must have been an interesting game. That's my old team, the Broncos. Covered it for many years, so I'm trying to get into it. I will probably later on this month.
Greg says, "Can we hire the Buffalo Bills special teams coach? He would fit perfect." And Andy asks on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, how far down on my list has Josh Allen dropped as one of the best quarterbacks? He's still a top 10. He's playing terrible right now. He's forcing the football, had a bad exchange. Like I said, I didn't get to see, I think I went to bed in the middle of the third quarter. He had a bad exchange on just a handoff. So he'll be fine. He's very, very talented. All right, we got a YouTuber here, Richard, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Says, Shane, the Gators are not elite and may not be for a long time, if ever. To be elite, you need a ass load of NIL money and an elite coach and elite facilities. UF only had the facility. UF only had the facilities. We have facilities now. We didn't then. I somewhat agree with his comments. There's not many elite coaches out there, though. That's the problem.
Shane, as far as the money goes, if that were true, then Texas A&M would win a national championship.
No, I agree with that. But I said this on my show yesterday, buddy. This is whether NIL or money just going to athletic departments. I feel like these in the SEC have way deeper pockets than we do. You tell me if you agree or disagree. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, A&M. Then you add Oklahoma and Texas. So I got 7 of the 16 schools that I think have deeper pockets than us. Do you agree or disagree?
I heard your comment. I thought about Auburn for a minute, but they got Tim Cook.
They got so much damn money.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't think money is it, Shane. I just don't think it's it. I think it will help you get a lot of what you want. Let me just share one thing with you. This is my brain is right now, and I won't get into it quite as much as I will tonight at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. What's the difference between dreams and expectations? Okay, I'll tell you the difference. Dreams, well, what you had when you went to Florida and you wound up playing for Spurrier and you guys won those SECs. Those were dreams realized. You can never have a better feeling than a realization of a dream. That is fantastic. Expectations are what you think you ought to be doing now. Florida has been cursed with expectations. Part of it's Steve Spurrier's fault. Part of it's Urban's fault. I told them both that. And now trying to get those expectations is difficult. So what the tools are for that, I don't know quite exactly, but I know one thing. that at some point you got to be singing from the same page in the hymn book, as the choir does. So I think Florida needs to sort of back up a little bit and re-examine what's going on. You got to have money. Yes, you have to have those facilities. But it didn't help Florida at all this year to have that great facility. It did not. Okay. I know what you're going to say. I'm just saying that, yes, I get it. But I also think that football, college sports has got to be more than just about money.
That's true, but it's you're living in la la land, because the two recruits that just decommitted, one is from Mississippi, and it's been stated he got more money to go to Auburn. It's that simple. That's what it's all about going to this school because they love it or they have ties to it. That's over with. But it's no different. If somebody offered you, if you were working at the Palm Beach Post for $100,000 and the Jacksonville Times-Union gave you $300,000, you're gone.
I don't know, Shane. I've turned down jobs for more money in my lifetime. I'm not saying I was rich. I didn't. But I get what you're saying. Economically, you're correct. The free market will decide it. There's got to be more to the core values in athletics than just that.
Well, there's not. I mean, we're living in la la land.
If the New York Yankees aren't winning it every year. They're spending more money in baseball. I mean,
right. Well, it doesn't mean you're going to win more. I'm talking about that's where the players are going to go. They're going for the money.
Shane, we're always going to have that. We're always going to have.
I'm just saying that is the fact.
Yeah, we're always going to have. Listen, get used to seeing. I've read Fans Beard's column this morning about that. And, they're going to be over. They're already over the number of scholarships that they can have, which means they have to dismiss people, whatever. And there are always going to be people leaving to get a better deal. That's life. That's capitalism. That's why we just never had it in college football like this before. But it can't be just that, can it? Dreams, expectations. I love the dream that you guys lived and read. I think when Carlos Alvarez was playing in Florida, you're playing in Florida, just getting there was such a great thing to do and accomplish. And as a boy growing up, you dreamed of Archie, you dreamed of Ole Miss and what have you. I dreamed of the Florida Gators being a champion. I got to see that in my lifetime. And it's different. It's expectations, and it's a whole different feeling.
Yeah, it's who's going to give me the most money. Shelby says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, Mertz is the highest paid Gator at $800,000 according to On3 reporting. We are cheap and will never compete being cheap. I don't know if we're cheap. We don't have the money that the other schools have. I mean,
true.
That's what it is, folks. And it's not our school paying this money out. This money going to NIL to players has to come from a different source. Right. Boosters. This says here, I can't read it. Andrew says, Shane, do you really believe NIL is new? No, no. People have been dropping bags at people's houses for years to play football, but now they can do it legally. So now it's even more out of control. Anyway, so buddy, I had a question here for you. All right, Gators. Gators have 2 games left in the regular season, and Norris says Anthony Richardson went for the money, $33 million. Yeah. That's what he got in the NFL. He was making like $1.6 million here last year.
Who could blame him for that? I wouldn't blame him for that. It's fine.
Right. So what are your thoughts moving forward? Do you think Billy makes any moves in the offseason?
Yeah, he has to make moves. There's no doubt about it. The menu is you start with now even defensive coordinators in question, although I don't think that'll be actually a change. He can't. I mean, he really cannot do it all. We know we've documented that. He's a play caller. He's a quarterback coach. He's a chief recruiter. He needs to be more involved in special teams. He's got to pick one. And I don't know. You think he's a good play caller? I do too. Quarterback coach, pretty good there. Play caller. I don't know about the rest of it though, because NIL is all there. I'd like to see him be more aggressive in the NIL part of this because he's got to fix his team, and he can't fix it by recruiting right now. He's got to get some players right now could play, and as good a class as he's got coming next year, he needs more big dudes up front next year. Go get them. Find out what you got to do. But the problem is, Shane, as you said, is that when you're not winning, the money starts to dry up, and there's a problem for Florida right there. It's starting to happen already. Some of these guys are wanting to back out of the deals. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm confused about college football right now. I don't really know where.
Well, the
what
problem
mission
is the big guys that we're going after, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan are going after them too. And I firmly believe you're going to see really good football players from multiple schools, multiple teams around the country, some of their best players who probably are being paid pretty well at their school. I bet they leave to go to some of these so-called contenders so they have an opportunity to compete for a national championship. I think it's going to
two things.
happen.
You got to have playing time. You got to have money. You can't. Sometimes you can't have both.
Right, but it happened. Georgia picked up two receivers that were the best receivers on Missouri and Mississippi State, and now they're their starting receivers. That's where I'm going with that. Because Missouri and Mississippi State were not going to compete for a national title. So, Debbie wants to know about Gatorade that we own. We don't own Gatorade. Gatorade is owned by the Pepsi company, and I think Florida has to buy the Gatorade that they give to the kids on the sideline. So that most people think we own Gatorade. We do not own Gatorade.
Shane, I want you to tell me something right now. Let's put all this stuff aside regarding, money and what have you in a second. Say, you're a proud University of Florida graduate. If you're talking to a guy from space about the University of Florida and what it means to you and what you love about it and what the pluses are, what are the three things you emphasize?
What I love about the University of Florida?
This is your Shane Matthews. I'm from space. I'm an alien. Tell me, why should I love University of Florida? Why do you love University of Florida? What is it?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed my experience. It was a great. I mean, I don't even know the
like
answer.
What about the experience?
Well, the experience is because we changed football. We changed the SEC. That ain't happening now. That's the problem.
Okay, but that's a whole different subject than experience.
Right, but I understand where you're going, but it's just like I know our fan base is so excited that we're the number one public institution in America.
Mm-hmm.
Not one damn recruit cares.
Well, yeah, there's a checkbox there, and you put that down there and you emphasize it. You got a great program. People care about it. All right, that's one. I think they want to win.
The alumni care. The athletes we're recruiting do not care.
Well, the alumni are what you cough up the money. So let's be.
No, they don't. Well, we have one of the largest fan bases in the world. And not,
all right.
Maybe
I misspoke on that. I understand what you're saying. But the fact is the money people are really running the show right now. But I'm asking you, what do you, as a University of Florida graduate, MVP of the SEC, started the dynasty, what are you most proud of there? What did you enjoy the most? And what do you think sells today?
I'd have to think about that. I mean.
No, you don't.
Well, yeah, I do, because buddy, again, nobody cares about what happened when Coach Spurrier was here or Urban Meyer.
I do not agree with you. I do not agree with you.
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you, they don't care.
No, that's not what I'm hearing, seeing, and talking to people about. I think they do care. It's called pride. There is some pride.
They want to win. It doesn't matter if you're playing at Ball State. They want to win.
Okay, well,
but I can promise you these players do not care what Steve Spurrier's era was like or whatever Myers' era was like. They're worried about theirs. I mean, that's
Shane,
that's my personal opinion.
I hope it hasn't come to just to that. All me, my. I hope it hasn't come to just. I get that's part of it. Part of it. Of course it was before this whole NIL thing. But you got to have more. You have to have something to believe in, to be proud of. You can't just say, "Oh, they pay me more money." There's got to be more life than that, Shane. And you had the ultimate experience playing for the ultimate coach. You had the atmosphere. Let me give you a small example. I'll mention this tonight in the talk. Think about what you got to sell. What do you have to sell? Well, yes, check off the box on the institution, public institution. But you know what kids would like if they're playing in Ohio State or playing in Notre Dame or playing in Michigan, the beach. They love the beach. They love the atmosphere. They love being in the sun, Shane. They love it. Listen, I'm telling you, I lived in the North for quite a while, and I can tell you what it's like to live up there and live down here. And one of the elements is, and you mentioned experience, lifestyle is something that can be sold. It's Florida. You're 60 miles from the beach, whatever. You have Florida, you have academics, you have pretty ladies, you have an atmosphere that's really top notch. They're not winning right now, but if he ever gets it going again, This is why the Bear Bryant used to call it a sleeping giant, because they had everything there. Maybe they don't have as much money as, Stanford, whatever, but they got enough. I think there's enough to sell. You got to go out there with the idea you got something to sell. What is it that makes you prideful about this university? They got a heck of a program. They got academics. They got location, geography. They got a lot of things are plus. And you can't go into it by saying, well, they got more money than we got no chance. That's not the way to go about it.
It's not the way to go about it, but it's the facts. The facts are all a kid cares about today is how much you going to pay me? Are you competing at a high level where we can win a championship? And how can I get to the NFL? Those are the three things. I promise you that's all they're thinking about. They don't care about ever going to class. They don't care about if they graduate from this university or that university. All they care about is how much money. That's why they ask you when they come on a visit, not even a real true visit, just to come to campus, I need $5,000. I mean, it's nuts. John on Facebook, I won't let you respond to this, buddy. This is John on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. He says, Buddy is living in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You want to respond to that or no?
I live in a world of reality, and experience is part of that. I'm not saying that today's standards are the same as they were 30 years ago, nor am I saying that Steve Spurrier, needs to be the head coach again. I think there is something to play for besides money. I don't care what you say. I know kids, I know people, whatever. Yeah, sure, they want all that stuff, but it matters where you play, who you play for, what the institution is, etc., and build on that. Look, Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt, okay? I'm glad Vanderbilt's in the league because they do represent other things. I can't say we become total mercenaries. All we care about is paying football players and pay them here and get them here. That's not what this game is about, I don't believe. I know it's a big factor. I know it's changed the game. But this thing's gonna level out at some point in time. There's going to be a day of reckoning. It's going to come. It's going to change. And the intrinsic value of what you're doing, you can call me old-fashioned, does matter. I just can't believe that it doesn't.
Everybody's talking about Gatorade here on Facebook Live. Somebody said they do pay royalties. I don't know if they do or not. Let's get to some text on the Titan Mark text line.
They're living in the past, Shane.
Who, me?
No, the Gatorade people. I'm just giving it back to them.
Oh, well, we don't own Gatorade anymore.
I understand that. I was there when Robert Cade invented it. I know all about it. They have a museum there and whatever. It's something to be proud of, though. Why not?
Yeah, Kevin from Punta Gorda says, do you think the college coaching career is now a stepping stone to the NFL? I think it's always been. I think every college coach probably wants to go to the NFL. Do they? So especially now with all the craziness going on in college football.
And yeah, think about this. Think about three of the greatest coaches you've known: Nick Saban, Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer. All failed in the NFL. Are they bad?
Yeah,
coaches?
I didn't say they would be successful. I'm just saying. Right. I guarantee if you polled them, they'd rather coach in pro ball because all you do is coach football.
And
you don't have to worry about all the nonsense.
I get it. Yeah.
This is from Daryl. Good morning, guys. Buddy, I think we have a bunch of Spanish bullfighters on defense who can't tackle.
A lot of Olays. You know what? Let me just say a second. You mentioned this last night on my show. Jayden Daniels is hard to tackle. Okay. I mean, he was, I can't put that at the feet of all the missed tackles. He makes guys look bad the way he makes them miss. He's only one of the most incredible players in the history of the league whose numbers last Saturday will probably never be exceeded. So let's understand. I'm not saying shouldn't be accountable because Austin Armstrong's defense lacked. But I will say this guy was one hell of a football player. And by the way, I'm going to see another hell of a football player on Saturday. The guy who can tote the rock.
Yeah. Jayden Daniels, if he doesn't win the Heisman Trophy, it's a disgrace. Let's see here. This is Mr. Bassman on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, a Florida alum. I've seen a lot of, unfortunately, we are currently has-beens, and Shane's right. We are, he says, John says we have 5 guys that are the major contributors to our NL. That is sad. And then somebody asked, is A&M looking at a Sun Belt coach conference? One of the guys that's really being thrown around is Jeff Traylor from UTSA, old Texas high school coach, done a really good job for the Roadrunners. I don't know who A&M is going to hire, but
they'd never hire him. That would be an insult to the Aggies to hire a guy from there. It's like because he was the minor leagues in their own state. It's like hiring Billy Napier. It was never going to happen in LSU. They don't think he's
a pretty good football coach. He's done wonders for them.
That doesn't necessarily mean what I'm talking about is that it's the perception of some alumni. We don't want him. He coached at FIU or something. I don't think it'll ever happen.
So who do you think they're going to hire?
I don't know. I really don't know. I guess Lane Kiffin is a possibility, although the AD and he don't get along. I don't know. I don't know who they're going to hire, Shane. I'm just making my list like you are, trying to figure out who are the most inviting candidates. I asked you last night who you would hire. You didn't have a whole bunch of names either.
Where, at A&M?
Yeah.
At A&M, I think they're going to end up hiring Mike Elko, which
I like Mike Elko.
He's done a good job at Duke, but they're not going to win at A&M. Here's the bottom line: they're not going to win at A&M. But I do like the guy Jeff Traylor at Texas San Antonio. I think he's a really good coach.
Really?
I do, and it wouldn't shock me if they didn't hire him. So,
okay.
Lane's always going to be there, but Lane's not going to win anything because he's going to do some silly stuff. He calls plays well, but other than that, I don't know. So. A&M is one of those teams, they think they can buy a championship. They're not. They're going to spend a lot of money again, and they're not going to win anything because Alabama and LSU are going to continue dominating the West.
Look up the word Steinbrenner.
I know who Steinbrenner is.
Not you. I mean them.
Rod says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, buddy, these kids don't know who Bear Bryant, Tom Osborne, Joe Paterno
I don't care.
Are.
They know They know who Tim Tebow is, don't they?
I will tell you this. Some people do only because Tim's on SEC Network, but a lot of people, Tim could walk on campus and some people wouldn't even know who he is. I'm telling y'all, It is bizarre. It is bizarre. I told the Emmitt Smith story 15 years ago. Nobody knew who he was. Because that goes back to our admissions. You could roll Emmitt go to Century Tower. You could put Coach Spurrier down there, and a majority of the students at this school would not know who they are, and that's a shame. But that's because all the people that know who they are, the people that know who they are at USF, FSU, or UCF.
Hey, Shane, some people don't know who John Adams was or who Abraham Lincoln was, for that matter. It doesn't mean.
But my point is, you're talking about all this football stuff. It's important for them to know who they are.
You have a perception of a program, okay, and you know what they represent. So I say Alabama, you automatically know who they are, right? They've done it for a long time. Georgia's building a reputation. Florida had that kind of reputation one time. It's a perception of who you are, and I think the perception of Florida is not that far off. It is a great place to coach. Now, there's some things that are lacking, but listen, you just can't go by the wallet. If you go by the amount of money, then you might as well cash in and say, let's just go play volleyball and forget football. I made my list last night. You laughed at me when I told you the guys I had on my list off the top of my head.
For Texas A&M?
The best coaches out there. I love Deion Sanders. I don't care what you say. Mike Elko is one of my favorites. Lance Leopold's a name you heard a lot about Kansas. I think he's going to be in a play somewhere. Probably the hottest guy who says he's not going to move is Dan Lanning.
Dan Lanning is the best coach out of all those people you mentioned.
He says he's not moving.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I wouldn't either. I'd stay right there because he's got a good thing in Oregon, and all they got to they'll make the 14 playoff next year, being in the Big Ten. John on the Titan of our text line says, "Tell Buddy that the alumni want to win football games."
Yeah, well, go root for Alabama then.
All right, buddy. Who you got on your program tonight?
Well, I'm going to be out and about tonight speaking, but I will be part of the show with Brendan. We got David Whitley, one of our favorites. We'll have Coach Lauren Meadows back from France, breaking it down for Missouri, and our bright young intern, of course, who is Kyle, will be with us on the program tonight. So talking about what else, coaches and changes, and I'm a lot more concerned about what you said last week about the coaching staff. Just so for the record, I'm for Billy. I think he'll be here through 25. I think he's a good coach and has a lot of good qualities. I want to see some upgrades among those in the analysts. Like we talked about the other day, name me some of the names of the analysts. What are they doing? And Billy's going to have to give up something. I don't know what exactly. You say not the play calling. I probably agree with it. He has to emphasize more things like the NIL and what have you. So, yeah, I think
he's got people doing that. We got people doing. I'm not worried about upgrading the analysts. I think they need to decrease the analysts, and I think they need to make changes on the staff because the staff are the ones that help on game day.
What changes? Also,
I don't know the answer to that right now, but I'm talking about the people that wear the headsets because that's where the problem is on Saturdays.
Here's the grim
can't do any of that.
I got you. Here's the grim reality of the whole situation. If he loses the next 2 games, he will have lost 14 games, right? In 2 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take Steve Spurrier to lose 14 games?
Probably, I don't think he only lost, I think, 15?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. How long did it take him to lose that 14 games?
10 years?
7.
7 years? Yeah.
And part
we ain't that team anymore, buddy.
I get it, Shane, but I go back to what I said.
And the Hall of Famer, he's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all time.
I get it.
There's only a handful of those in college football today.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying in terms of the fans out there. There are dreams and there are expectations, okay? Florida football was a lot more fun when you had your dreams and you realized and you helped bring them about. Expectations cause pressure and unrealistic expectations. Somehow Gator fans have got to find a happy medium here between dreams and expectations. They're going to be a while. How long is it going to take this program to come back, Shane? I'd say 3 or 4 years. What do you say?
I'm hoping. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, Georgia's not going anywhere. I mean, what Kirby and Muschamp and that crew had going on there, it's scary. That's all I can say. It's scary.
What are you willing to live with as a good season? Would you say 9 or 10 wins and
eight's fine with me? Eight's fine with me because I try to live in reality. Florida football was what we're going through now, and every now and then have 8 wins a good year until Stephen Orr showed up and Urban Meyer. You have a couple good years sprinkled in the other 120 years of football or whatever it was, but that's the facts.
I don't disagree with you on that. I think it's going to be a while. The Gator fans have got to get a realistic expectations. Pick out something you liked about this season, beating Tennessee, whatever, and say, okay, I'm going to live with that for a while and realize it's going to take a minute to get this done. Have they got the patience to last? I don't know. That's the big question. You can't keep firing your head coach every other year.
I agree. And I don't know who you would hire. But the problem is the patience, yes. We've got to get players. We got to make some changes on staff. But the problem is all the other teams are doing the same thing.
I agree. That's the problem. They got ball players too, by the way. They got money.
Yep. All right, buddy. Have a good day, and we'll see you next week, my man.
Thank you, Shane.
Yep, that's Buddy Martin. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This Day in Sports in 1875, the first college football game with uniforms was between Harvard and Yale. My question would be, what were they wearing before they started wearing uniforms? I guess they were just in pants or what have you. But that's brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. This is a text from Jonathan on the Titan Tomorrow text line. He says, Jeff Traylor is an excellent coach for San Antonio. Yeah, he is. I would not be surprised if they don't hire him there. The people in the state of Texas love that guy. And so we'll see. Let me get to a couple of these before we take a break. Kevin on YouTube, brought to you by Quallen Plumbing, says, alumni care about #1 public university. Recruits don't mean nothing to them. They want money and a chance to win a championship and go to the NFL. Bingo. Agree 100% with that. John says FSU has a big athletic program. Where do they get their money? We have more money than them, John. I meant to answer that. We do have more money than them. They're having a good year, but again, they're playing in the ACC. I want to read this here before we get to Graham Hall in a second. I screenshot this, and I meant to ask Buddy who's going to vote for the Heisman Trophy. And I sure hope he votes. So Bo Nix has 3,256 total yards, 34 touchdowns. Their strength of schedule is 53rd in America. Penix Jr. has 3,533 total yards, 30 touchdowns. Strength of schedule is 43rd. Jaden Daniels, 4,082 total yards, 38 total touchdowns. Strength of schedule, 4th in America. I mean, it's not even a comparison. If Jaden Daniels does not win the Heisman Trophy, they should take multiple people off the voting, take their votes away. Don't let them ever vote again, because they obviously aren't watching football and know who the best player is. Let's take a quick timeout. We come back, we'll be joined by Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. Get his thoughts. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're going to go back to the Titan MRI hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements, and we're joined by the one and the only Graham Hall. Good morning, Graham. How you doing, bud?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Always
Absolutely.
good to be here.
Graham, before we jump into these last two regular season games, we got some here, obviously talking about recruiting, and we'll talk about the two kids that decommitted. But Michael on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, I'm going to let you answer this. He says, Shane, how do you think Napier needs to handle the portal at this point? Is his vetting too harsh? I think he's done a hell of a job with the skill guys, not so much with the big guys. Your thoughts?
I think that's fair. I think evaluating the offensive line is extremely tough. I think that the additions they made along the interior of the defensive line last season, getting Cam Jackson, Caleb Banks, I think that those were wise additions, and those were some of the first ones that the staff made when the portal opened, right? I mean, let's be honest, this is the time of the year where you are scouring the country for talent. You can't just go into that first week of December and start looking at what's available. You have to have some key guys in mind. And I think that what they did last year, you're going to have to maybe expedite the process a little bit. I think that is certainly fair. But I'm with you, Shane. The evaluations that Florida has done, the additions that they have made under Billy Napier have largely been very positive ones. And I know that it's easy to criticize the offensive line, but go back to the first year, getting Osiris Torrance. I think that was a huge addition. Cam Waits as well has proved to be a really good swing tackle for the Gators. So you just need more guys like that, right? And I think that there's going to be some further attrition on this roster from guys who haven't contributed this year, and they're going to have to go out and find offensive linemen, some defensive linemen as well, who are able to step in and play in year one. As for his evaluation methods, we're not privy to everything that they're doing, everything that they know. So making assumptions about whether it's right or wrong is not really something I'm keen on doing. I'll say that because I think you just have to look at the track record, who Florida has added, and give some credit to the evaluation capabilities of the staff, because I think that they've done really well at identifying their needs. Now they're going to have to do it at I think a little bit of a higher rate this offseason, just knowing what's in store for 2024.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people in here. I know you don't really handle the recruiting for y'all anymore. That's Blake Alderman, but we're going to ask you a few things here. A lot of people are upset. The kid from Mississippi and the DB from from Louisiana is going to is now committed to Texas, and the kid from Mississippi is now committed to Auburn. Reggie says Nasir Johnson and Amaris Williams will be decommitting as well. I don't know where they're from. I don't know what they play. What is the reasoning behind this? Is it because of the lack of wins, or is more money coming in from somewhere else?
Well, the latter is definitely possible. I think that everyone is fair to speculate about NIL and things like that. And when you are a team that is still in the middle of a rebuild and you don't really quite see the light at the end of the tunnel just yet, and you have other programs who are maybe exceeding expectations in year one, like Auburn with Hugh Freeze there, and obviously Texas being on the national stage, being able to have the deep pockets of Texas and be a team that could potentially sneak into the college football playoff. I know it's unlikely, of course, with everyone else who's out there, but it looks like a team that's certainly built to compete next year as well, maybe a little bit quicker than Florida. And obviously that can be attractive to guys. So when you land these high value prospects, you build a top 3 class before the season, you're always in danger of losing those guys when the season shakes out. And I think that we would be, kidding ourselves if we didn't say that there were certainly some disappointing factors to Florida's season right now. And that can lead to some guys exiting the class. Now, you mentioned Nasir Johnson, Amaris Williams. You look at what programs are looking at those guys, Georgia and Ohio State. Amaris Williams is a guy who I think that certainly the pressure that he's got from Ohio State, a team that certainly is looking like they're college football playoff bound. I think that is just going to be a difficult one to keep, but this staff is doing everything they can to keep those guys together. Nasir, I'm a little bit, I don't know what to make of that situation here. Florida still feels really good about keeping him in this class from what I've heard. But a guy who's obviously looking around, he's taking other visits. He's communicated with the defensive line coaches that he's going to look at other places. Contact with him may be at this time, tougher to get a hold of right now because of just the options that he has from Georgia, some of the other SEC programs out there as well. So this is going to be a situation where Florida, they may lose a few more commits before finishing off this class here. And they knew that was always going to be a possibility, right? And I think that contingency plans, not to use some coach speak here, is going to be really critical for this class. I think fortunately they've built a really strong base and have some other options, but you obviously want to hold on to those guys, and it's going to be a critical couple of weeks for Florida to try and do that.
Yeah, for sure. We got a text on the Titan Mark text line from Will. He says, Graham, in your opinion, do you think Billy makes changes on his staff?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he strongly insinuated that is coming. I think that, he said a couple of weeks ago that the offseason, in his opinion, is more the time for evaluating the structure of your organization. I think that you see coaches who will make grand changes during the season, whether it's firing their defensive coordinator or shuffling up their play calling. They make those when the seat is a little bit hotter than the one that Billy Napier has right now. I know a lot of people are expecting their to be a lot more pressure from the administration moving forward. I think that Billy Napier understands that he's been given a timeline, maybe 4 years at least, to build this thing back up. And he has an administration and athletic department that supports him. And, go back to his opening press conference when he got here. He said, kind of predicted all these things. He said people would have to be patient, but he also said that people are probably going to become a little frustrated with him. And so I think that nothing is out of the ordinary with Billy Napier right now and how he's going about things. But with all that said, I think he understands that he's going to have to make some difficult decisions in the offseason. I mean, whether it's bringing in a formal offensive coordinator, I think that would lead to a restructuring of the 2 offensive line coaches, because a guy like Rob Sale, who is your offensive line coach, yes, but also has the title of offensive coordinator, is a guy like that going to take a demotion in title? I don't really think that that's something that he would be keen on doing. It would look like, as if he was, like what I just said, being demoted. And I think that there's a guy like that who's been in the NFL, has worked in the business for a long time. That's not something that he would really like to do. So Billy Napier may have to part ways or end up losing a guy in Rob Sale that he was very fond of bringing in and thinks has done a really good job. So obviously a difficult decision that has to be made there. And then you look at bringing a special teams coordinator on the field. You go back to who he had with him at Louisiana back in 2018, 2019, Disher, who's now at Illinois. That's a guy who coaches the tight ends and is your special teams coordinator. So he's able to have both roles, be on the field, work with the unit. And so maybe bringing in a guy like that in a similar position where he also is a position coach as well as being your on-field special teams coordinator, I think that is certainly a realistic option for Billy Napier and his staff to do. But again, that's going to come after the season here. I don't think Florida makes any changes here over the next, 10 days before the season wraps up. That would really be surprising to me and show a little bit more concern from the coaching staff than I think there is right now. I think that they're going to be able to make all the changes they need to make once the season ends. And I think that the talent pool for coaches is going to get a little bit wider, and there's going to be more options available after the season. So certainly I think some changes are coming, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see those.
Graham, in your opinion, I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I have zero problems with the offense. Obviously, can you score more points, be more explosive? Yes. But I've been telling people special teams is a problem, but defense is a huge, huge problem. What do they need to do to get to where they can at least be more competitive on that side of the ball?
I think going out there and finding some more linebackers as well, guys who are able to step in and play really immediately, can give you some more depth at that position. I think that is a huge one. I think certainly the secondary, you're going to see some changes there in the offseason. But let's be frank. I mean, I think that the losses of Shamar James, a couple other guys, that those have been very detrimental to Florida this season. You lose Shamar James and, you need someone to spy the quarterback. I think there's going to be a dip in production, your ability to do that as well. I think that is certainly an issue for Florida, but I'm not really one who thinks that, all the pressure or blame even should be put on Austin Armstrong. I think that schematically, I think he runs a really good system. I think that maybe it can be what he's trying to do on defense. And this is just an assumption here, so don't hold me to this, of course, but, I think that what he's trying to do may be a daunting task for inexperienced guys. Florida playing 35% of freshmen throughout the season, and what they're trying to do where they're, multiple in both ends, can have 4 defensive linemen, 5 defensive linemen, and really adjust on the fly. I think that can be lead to a little bit larger margin of error for some of these young guys. So I hate to just say experience is going to be very necessary for this defense to improve, but I do think that is the best answer I can give. That's what makes, in my opinion, getting a bowl game so critical, is because you get that practice time where you can work with the assistants, the on-field coaches, while they're trying to obviously make some additions to the transfer portal and recruit and sign the class, but you get more experience when you get those bowl game practices. And I do think that there's a part here that just thinks that this is a continue progressing within this defense type thing. I know that people want to see some massive changes, but I don't think it's in Florida's best interest to really change coordinators or blow up things from a schematic standpoint. I think that they just need a little bit more time in the system here with how many young guys they have. And obviously that could be a frustrating answer for people who want to hear that there's some huge fix on the way. I don't really get that opinion. I think that they just need more time to develop, which I think can obviously be frustrating as well when you just kind of have to be patient and see how it all plays out.
Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself in excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We're speaking with Graham Hall from 24/7 Sports, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. We got a text on the Titan Mark text line from Jonathan. He says, Graham, do you think Graham Mertz comes back next year, or do you think he goes to the draft or maybe to another team? Is he eligible to transfer again?
That's a good question. I don't think he is going to transfer again. I doubt that would be something, even if he could do that, that would be in his best interest, coming into a new place and learning everything over again. And I don't think that's something he wants to do. I mean, he said time and time again that he's having, the most fun he's ever had. And I think that he has obviously rebuilt his stock a lot this season here, where he could even consider heading to the NFL. But I think that that's a guy who wants to finish out his college career, come back next year and see what he can do in this, in his 6th year of college football. Obviously, you're going to lose Ricky Pearsall, Florida's #1 target, but you look at who Florida has on the roster, getting Eugene Wilson back, Trevor Etienne, Montrell Johnson. I think that with a continued, improvements from the offensive line, he's going to be better protected next season, hopefully. I think that it would be in his best interest to come back. Now, if you had asked me a month ago, I would have said that was a guy who I think would strongly consider heading to the NFL. Just the traits that he has, his leadership, his work ethic. Is he a little bit maybe undersized for the quarterback position? Yeah, but I mean, as you're seeing right now, that's not really, I think, a massive factor in a quarterback's ability to be successful at the next level. I think that he is going to strongly consider coming back next year. You get DJ Lagway in the fold, who I think would be wise to, benefit him to sit a year, learn behind an experienced play caller, not have to have everything thrown at him at once, and then he can really take over in 2025. I think that he would really help bridge the gap between those quarterbacks. And I think that what you've seen out of him this year, you would want that guy back in the fold, right? I mean, I think he has exceeded a lot of people's expectations, obviously not yours, Shane, because you were on top of that from the jump at how good he looked in practice. But I think that, that may be your best option at quarterback next season, is getting him back in the fold. I think it's clear that Max Brown is still not ready, and Florida really doesn't have anyone behind him. I don't know what happens with Jack Miller, but it would be surprising if he did end up coming back to compete for the quarterback job, just knowing how cemented Graham Mertz has been in that role this season, and that Max Brown has taken over as the number 2. I think that Graham Mertz would be Florida's best option in 2024 right now from what I have seen. So I would be surprised if the Gators don't want him back, of course. And I think he's going to have a decision to make here in a couple of weeks. But he, from what I've heard, has not given too much thought about his future. He's obviously motivated on the day-to-day. And I hate to say salvaging the season, but, maybe ruining someone else's season here in the next couple of weeks, whether it's Florida State or Missouri on the road here, upsetting that team that's only lost to Georgia and I think LSU. So I think that I would want Graham Mertz back if I'm the Gators, and I think that they got to hope that the feeling's mutual.
All right, we got a couple of texts on the Titan Mark text line and YouTubers brought to you by Quality Plumbing. It's all about possibility of some of our better players transferring at the end of the year. Because I mentioned to Buddy that today's world, it's crazy. Even though you're making good money wherever you are, you look at Ra Thomas and the Lovett kid, the two receivers that Georgia has. Those guys were really good players for Missouri and Mississippi State, but they wanted to get more money and go play for a national title. Have you heard any rumblings of any us possibly losing anybody?
Sure. I think that absolutely Florida understands that the guys that they want to bring back next year, just in today's climate with NIL, the transfer portal, how many changes we've seen in college football, you're going to have to, sell those guys on playing time for next year. And I think that Florida's done a good job with that this year, getting Eugene Wilson involved at a high rate, Arliss Fordingham's ascension. I think that those guys are big pieces that you want to have come back next year. I think that Florida has done their best to balance a backfield that has two really good guys in it, in Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. And I think having a larger role for Trevor Etienne next year, laying that out for him will obviously be a factor in making sure that that guy comes back to Gainesville. We always hear rumblings about guys being frustrated at this time of the year. And I think that that is really natural. You can obviously speak to that when the season is not going as you expected it to go. But I think that this coaching staff has done a really good job at discussing future roles with players, keeping everyone locked in. And you're obviously going to have to, with NIL these days, you're going to have to make that a part of your pitch to return. And I think Florida understands that. They're in a place where they can do that. And we will certainly see here. Now, with Georgia and Alabama, if they want someone on their roster, I hate to say it, more times than not, they're going to make that happen. And until you are a competitive team at the national level, like those programs are, you are always at risk of someone coming in and poaching one of your players. I think that is certainly something to watch for right now. And the Gators are preparing to defend against that. Let me say that.
Yeah, there's no question. All right, last thing, we had some people here ask, can y'all please talk about Missouri? I don't know what he wants to talk about. They're a better football team than we are. It's a weird place to play. It's an uphill battle playing in Columbia for us.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I think Billy Napier had a really interesting comment yesterday when he was talking to the media. He made sure to note that Eli Drinkwitz is in year 4 there, because you go to the first couple of years of Eli building that program. I mean, was he having the results that he wanted? Absolutely not. He was losing 5-star players, like you mentioned, losing Dominic Lovett, and, was still able to recruit. Look at Luther Burden. He had a good year last year, but they didn't really have the on-field results that they were hoping for. Now he gets into year 4, has all of his guys in place, makes a change along his coaching staff that has proved to be really critical, gets a good quarterback to continue developing in Brady Cook. And I think you're seeing all those pieces come together. So is there a perfect blueprint for Florida in terms of this rebuild? Billy Napier has said that not all rebuilds are the same, but if you look at Missouri and what they've done, getting a guy in Eli out of the Sun Belt to rebuild an SEC program, that kind of is the program that you want to become by year 4, right? And I think that they are a good blueprint for what Florida is trying to do. And there's a reason that they're going to be favored on Saturday, right? I mean, this is a team, their offense, it looks really, really good. And, a ton of respect there for what he has done. It's a formidable opponent. Really has always kind of given the Gators trouble since Missouri got to the SEC, 11 years ago, have been a team that Florida has, I think, taken lightly at times. And that's no longer the case. And maybe there's a little envy there of wanting to become a program like that. And I just got nothing but respect for Missouri for what they've done.
Yeah, there's no question about that. We have one more. Somebody's here talking about we need to hire Lane Kiffin because if he would out recruit Kirby and Saban if he was at UF. Lane's the worst recruiter. There he is. Oh, here it is. Toby wants to know on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, what's going on with Kamari Wilson?
That's a guy who obviously wants to play. And earlier this season, back in spring even, we've heard that Florida had wanted him to maybe move to play some Sam linebacker. Maybe they didn't view him as a true safety with the other safeties that they brought in, the freshman, getting, Miguel Mitchell back for year 2. It was going to be difficult for Kamari to carve out a full-time role for himself. And you've really seen an emphasis on playing the freshman. And I think that he's been a little frustrated throughout the year. I think that you can obviously, assume that for sure. And there were times he was left off the travel roster, has found himself down the depth chart. If he comes back to Florida next year, I think it would be a little bit of a surprise in a way, just how we have seen a lack of him seeing the field. There was an incident earlier this season where, he showed up in the middle of the game and kind of was let off the field because he wasn't part of the guys who Florida expected to have out there. So I think that that's certainly a difficult situation. A former 5-star from a program like IMG Academy, you obviously don't want to rub anyone in Bradenton the wrong way, but it is certainly looking like the Gators had to make a tough decision whether they play a guy with a large recruiting profile or they play the players that they think are the most talented, the most capable of playing. And I think that may lead to Kamari Wilson no longer being on the roster after next year, but we'll have to see here. I do kind of hate making assumptions about guys leaving town, especially when that it hasn't worked out the way that they want. And that should be an announcement that they make. And it certainly is just a difficult situation to see him frustrated if that is the case. And you never want to lose a guy who you think had so much talent, because it can sometimes be seen as a knock on your development process. I don't think that's the case here. And Florida has just had to make some tough decisions playing some younger guys.
Yep, no doubt. Graham, great stuff as always. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter.
I appreciate you having me always. Follow me at Graham Hall. You can read us at Swamp247. As Shane said, Blake Alderman does a great job of recruiting. You want to make sure that you follow him throughout the year. We're going to have a deal running all throughout Thanksgiving to Black Friday to November 28th, where you can sign up for, I believe, 50% off. So take advantage of that. If you are not on Swamp247, engage with me on there. Ask me any questions you got. Reach out, DM, whatever you want to ask. Always available, and got to do this again soon.
Yep. Good stuff, Graham. Appreciate it, my man. We'll see you Saturday.
I'll take care. Thanks, Shane.
That's Graham Hall. Join us on the Tight No More Hotline. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Appreciate everybody chiming in. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Take care.